All right, my friends, we're going to go ahead and start working on our vanishing point landscape. You're going to need your pencil. I recommend a ruler or another piece of paper to use to help with your lines, and we're going to be using our oil pastels. All right, so we're going to start by drawing lightly with our pencil to get our sketch on first. Okay, so in order to do that, the first thing we need to do is draw our horizon line along the back. Now, there's lots of different options. I gave you guys some examples of how you can make your scene. You choose what you want to do. I'm gonna actually look at Utrillo's landscape as inspiration for mine. All right, so that means that my horizon line is actually going to be closer to the bottom of my page. So I'm just going to line up my ruler and draw a nice light line on my page for my horizon line. Now I'm going to find my vanishing point. In Utrillo's image, it's over on towards the side. It's not directly in the middle. So you choose where you want your vanishing point to be. I'm going to make mine about right here. I think that probably is good, and I'm just going to draw my dot. Now I'm going to draw a street or a road off of that, lining up to that point, and it can be wherever I want it to be here. It could be wide or not, okay? So you decide where you want that to go. I'm going to have it kind of go off the page just a bit, like so. All right, and then my other side might come off maybe, let's see, looking at his picture, I might make it like, let's see here, maybe about like this. So that's going to be my street that I am walking down. Remember, everything is lining up with that point. So I can also provide some more guidelines here. Okay, so maybe I want just to put some guidelines for where I'm going to put my trees. Okay, and how I'm going to do that, I'm drawing a light line here, and maybe I want my trees to be nice and tall. So I'm going to make my, let's see, we might go maybe about here, a nice light line to help with how I'm going to place my trees. So as I come out, it's going to get bigger. So I'll do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to do another line here. Let's see, let's go on top so we can see where that's at. We'll keep them nice and close to our road, or maybe it's going to become a river. I don't know yet. We'll see what happens. And then draw my line going across the top. I could even match this line. Look how cool that would look. But I'm gonna kind of exaggerate it just a bit and have my trees coming up this way. So these lines are the lines that I'm using as my guide points, okay? Now, in Utrillo's image, there's buildings back here, but I'm going to go ahead and imagine that this is just normal ground or whatnot, and maybe I'm going to put some mountains. All right, so I can lightly sketch maybe some mountains coming in this background here. I like to have a little bit of some jagged mountains. And I can have it cross over in different areas, showing some different heights here. I could even draw my points like this and making sure that it's all in the right perspective. But since these are mountains in the background, they may not follow the same perspective rules. Okay, so look at that. That's kind of a really cool mountain range. Maybe I'll put another one right back here. All right, remember I'm focusing on my trees that I'm going to put here. So now I can draw some trees, starting, maybe I'll start with some small ones in the back, and they're going to extend over that horizon line, and they're going to reach all the way up here. So maybe I'm going to have just some pine trees maybe. So once again, they're following this line, top to bottom here, and I can overlap them, and as they get closer to me, they're going to overlap each other and get bigger. You see that? So maybe this one, maybe I have a couple that are small, and then I have a really big one, like so. And he could even be really big. Maybe even covering up that mountain, so I don't even need that mountain over there anymore, right? So I have a nice big one right there. I can go ahead and erase any lines that I'm not going to use to kind of help see where I'm at here. Even that horizon line back there, I can erase. And then this line here, I can also erase. Those were just guide lines, so I may not want them anymore. All right, that's looking pretty cool. All right, so maybe on this side, I don't do as many trees, or they maybe are looking a little different. So following this line, maybe I start with just a big one, and maybe he is more of a just branches. Okay, maybe he's lost his leaves. All right, and then I can do one in the distance that's similar to that other one that we did on the other side. Or maybe these ones are just more spread out. And I can decide how big I want these to be when I color them. But these guidelines are helping me get my perspective. So I can erase them when I'm done using them. I might want to leave my horizon line back there. All right, and so now what you guys can see is I have my vanishing point. I have some trees and some buildings in the back. You can always add other things. You can make this into a river. It could be train tracks, whatever you want, but those little details are what are going to add the excitement to it. So let's go ahead and get drawing with our color or our oil pastels. And I'm going to maybe use some of the same colors that I see in Utillo's image. So maybe my ground is going to be more like dirt. So maybe I'll start with a color, and think about how you're coloring in terms of that vanishing point, because that also helps with the way this feels. Pushing hard on our oil pastels to really get some color on there is going to be pretty awesome. Okay, and I'm also going to show you another technique that we can use with oil pastel. That's going to be adding some character to it, some extra dimension in there. So once again, I'm just putting some different colors in here in different spots, giving it some extra character, some extra excitement. You can always layer dark over light. You can see how that blended in nicely right there. So I'm making this kind of a dirt road, grassy, naturey sort of feel here. And I'm exploring my oil pastels. I haven't done this much. where we've gotten to kind of just play around with it a little bit. So I'm going to take the opportunity today to do that with you guys. Just exploring what we're seeing here. Remember, keeping those vanishing points nice and clear. That's important. All right, now since I have more redwood trees, I'm going to make them this really cool reddish brown. Getting those in there. Remember, keeping those vanishing point lines or those perspective lines. All right, now I might come in here to get some of these shapes. I can even do that a little bit in here because remember, there is a trunk of a tree hanging out in here. So it's okay to do that. And it'll blend nicely with the colors underneath. Okay, so you can use, I would use, let's see, I'm going to use just the bright green to do these areas. And then I can always go over it with another color. So you see how I'm pushing really, really hard, but I'm also using it to blend. So I'm going to go over this again with a couple other colors to give it some variety. But we're just making, I like things to run off the page because our scene does not end just because the page ends. So it's nice to keep that in mind. Oops. I made my pencil fly. Did you guys see that? That was pretty fun. I'm pushing pretty hard here, so it's adding lots of fun elements. All right, let's do some on this one. I'm going to try to keep my colors a little bit more separated as I'm working on blending some of those. Right. And then I can go in here, even if it's a tree that doesn't have a ton of foliage on it, you can still put some. Maybe there's just some here. And then this one, maybe I will, well, let's do just a tiny bit. Maybe there's just a few leaves left. It's trying to survive. So I can grab different colors. I could grab some more brown and I can go over it to make it a little darker, add some variety in there. See that? It helps to add the darker color after you've added the lighter color. Oil pastels work great that way. Kind of different than how we normally work. I'm also gonna see what happens when I add maybe some of this blue towards the front. It's gonna kind of, maybe it'll do something. I don't think it's doing much, but just playing with it and seeing if it does anything that I like. All right. Not particularly, so I'm not going to spend too much time on that. Maybe I'll try a little bit of the darker blue. Okay, I noticed that in Utirillo's picture is that there's lots of blue in the trees. I love that coloring. So I'm using that as inspiration. To add a little bit of color to some of my trees that might not normally have been seen there. All right, I'm going to, let's see, for my ground, I'm actually going to do a lighter color, more like dirt. So you can see how when I go over the dark, it blends it in a different way than we normally would see it if we used it in the other combinations. So keep that in mind. Let's see here. I'll carry that back just a little bit here. You see how I'm trying to keep that vanishing point as I'm coloring. I'm using that direction. I'm going to need to remove some of my paper and my oil pastel in a second. So I'm just using this to blend. I might try to go a little bit darker over here. Maybe we'll use, no, use this brown. And I can just see what's going to work. So you can do whatever style you want. You can make it grass. Once again, you could even make it a river or a stream, whatever you find that you like. Now in the background, I'm going to do some gray mountains. I'm going to start with gray and then I can add some color to them. Actually, I'm going to, this might seem strange, but I'm going to start by putting white on my furthest mountains. And then I'm going to put my darker color over it. So they're not going to be as gray as the rest of the mountains. You can see how that's already getting darker. But it's going to help show that those are a little bit further back. Even though this is kind of disappearing back there, we can still put that bit of detail. So once again, I'm pushing pretty hard, trying to get it saturated with color. All right, now I can go through and I can add any more colors that I want. So maybe I want a little bit more blue on these back mountains. Okay, I can even make some of these a little bit darker as we come forward. I'm just going very lightly because I know that this blue is very strong. So just adding some of those details, showing where they're overlapping maybe. And I can decide, maybe I wanted it to be a sunset. I could have done different colored mountains. Maybe I just want them to have a little bit of a purple glow. Okay, lots of different things that I can do with that. All right, now I could do the sky. Maybe that's where I add some extra color. Maybe I do a yellow sky, super bright with the sun. But since I'm using Utrillo's inspiration, I'm gonna go with more of a blue. So I'm gonna go with this sort of blue. I might keep it lighter in some areas. You can see there's some green on it, but that's okay. So I'm gonna keep it lighter. I can practice different strokes, maybe different patterns as I'm filling a space like this. Maybe I want it to be more like wispy clouds, like our inspiration. And notice I'm not filling it completely because I am going to go add some more detail in a moment. So I'm not going to spend the time making it solid because I'm going to go back over it with some white in some spots. maybe right down the middle where that vanishing point is, helping to lead my eye down there. Do you see how nice and blended that is now? Just by using the white over my color. So I'll do that a little bit over here, and then maybe I bring in some of that gray, and now I go over it with some gray in some of those spots. Almost like it's a little bit stormy, right? Like so. All right, I wanted to show you some of the fun things that you can do also. I have fingernails, so I'm just going to use my fingernails, but you can actually remove some of the oil pastel and do different sort of lines. If you look at our inspiration masterpiece, there is some of that has happened. You can use any sort of sharp edge that you can find. Just remember, you don't want to use a pencil because that's going to draw on it. But this adds some of that really cool detail that you see, and you're going to have a nice fun little collection if you're using your finger like I am. So we can do different areas. I love how it just changes the value of what you're seeing. And then it kind of sharpens up some of those pieces that might have been a little smudged or a little blurry. Now they have some variety. I can even use that to show, like, hey, this is grass over here. And you can put on some more and then keep scratching. So then I would take this and shake it over the trash can just to make sure that we don't get any of these pieces on anything else. But remember, you can do that even on your mountains, all over the place. You could even do some, I have too much on that one finger. You can almost remove it enough to make it look cloudy. It's not going to stand out a ton, but it's going to add some variety in there, and then help by drawing your eye to your vanishing points. All right, let me go shake this off and I'll show you guys the finished project. All right, so I went and I just wiped all this off to make sure that I didn't have any chunks, and my painting is done, my oil pastel art. And there you go, vanishing point, ascending sides. Looks like you could walk right into it, huh? Good luck, friends.